Hi there, Aruna.
Hi, Yashodhara.
So here we are doing the first video.
I know. Quite excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So let's dive right into it.
Sure.
So please tell us, Aruna, what exactly is this thing called psychotherapy?
It can feel very mysterious to those who have no exposure to it. Um, very simply put, it is a conversation with a trained person, a safe space for you to explore what's happening with you. Look at your own process of meaning making, how your coping strategies, feel the feelings that you're feeling without any worry about how being judged in the process, and address what's happening in your life. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very comprehensive way of looking at what could be going on with you.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, Aruna, there is very much still that hesitation, almost a feeling of there must be something wrong with you if you're opting for therapy. So, what's your view on that?
Often psychotherapy, because of the stigma associated with it, most people don't opt for psychotherapy till they feel they can't cope with it alone, and which is not how it should be. Uh, uh, yeah, because psychotherapy is about wellness and health and growth, and it's about reassessing the lens with which you view your life events. So it's really not about uh, distress, and while it does help people in distress, it's not that it's beneficial only to people in distress. That's a myth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
Because
that.
yeah,
And
sorry.
yet it seems as though there is still some sort of almost shame associated.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you seeing that changing?
It is changing. The newer generation is very open about it. The millennials are very open about it. Uh, but it is still widespread that if you're not in control,
Mm.
then you're weak.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's a very damaging belief, because if you believe that, you'll pass it on to your children, who
Right.
will feel ashamed of feeling weak and vulnerable, and it just perpetuates.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the analogy is, if you were lost on a road, you wouldn't find it shameful to ask someone for directions.
Hmm.
Yeah. And if you felt lost in life, why is it shameful to
Yeah.
ask someone for support?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing I hear you say is that then it's not about waiting for a moment where you have necessarily a deep pressing problem.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's another myth, that only if you have a problem you can seek psychotherapy, because we all have coping strategies. Actually, a person who believes he or she has no problems is also using a coping strategy of pushing away uncomfortable emotions and believing that they don't exist.
Mm.
And that's a problem too. And they may not be recognizing how they are not just limiting themselves, but also limiting people around them. So it can be a useful exercise to explore, how do I deal with stress? Yeah, yeah.
And one thing that I hear pretty often is this whole question about, see, my problem that I'm facing or whatever goal I have is related to the here and now or is to do with the future. So what does my past have to do with it anyway? That's long gone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the other resistance to the idea of therapy.
yeah, yeah. That's why some education around that is helpful. That who we are today is a result of the zillion choices we have made from the time that we were infants. And when we are little children, we have little resources to understand. We don't have an objective standard of how the world should be. So if I grow up with anxious parents, I grow up believing that the world is a scary place, and I will be vigilant in my adult life. And for this person, there is no other reality possible.
Mm.
Yeah, and so the past shows up in the present, and there is relevance. So all the modalities of psychotherapy uh, uh, operate on the uh, theory that early life experiences form the blueprint of our personality, our coping strategies, our universe, our
Mm.
personal universe, yeah, which becomes our reality.
And much of it would be possibly outside of conscious awareness.
Yeah, almost entirely outside awareness. That's why you need another person to work with you. And it's tough to figure this out on your own. Not just any person, not just a friend, not a family member, but a trained person who can help you get to the heart of where some of your patterns may have originated and where the healing is needed. As an example, I remember working with a lady heading an organization who felt she was very hated by her staff. And she always felt that people were talking about her behind her back. And as we explored, she felt hated in her school. She felt hated in her own family. Her parents felt hated by the rest of the extended family. So the healing had to happen not just in the present, but way back. Yeah, and those connections may not be fully clear. Yeah.
And therefore, talking about the whole selection of who you choose and how you choose a therapist.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that people can watch out for?
Yeah, there are many modes of therapy available in the market, and it can be confusing to choose. So I can broadly say that there are two buckets into which therapy can fall. One are the cognitive methods, which are more problem focused, present centered, which is what is going on for you right now, and how do you think about it, how do you feel, and how do you act. And because these three are connected, shifting any one will impact the other three, and you go back with more options. Yeah, so coaching is largely this way of working. Yeah, insight oriented work. And there's a whole range of other theories which also include insight, but recognize that insight alone is insufficient sometimes. Yeah, and because much of it is outside conscious awareness. I may not recognize that I believe that the authority figures are not to be trusted. Yeah, I may not recognize that. It may not be in my conscious awareness. So these set of therapies are called psychodynamic therapies, transactional analysis, psychoanalysis, Jungian way of working. All of these look at, there are parts of us that we have chosen to push away or deny. It's called split off, and it's about reintegrating those parts and becoming whole again. Yeah, and the focus is a lot on the relationship between the therapist and the client, and what happens in the relationship is a microcosm of what would be happening in other relationships. So there's a lot of exploration of unconscious processes that show up in the relationship between the client and the therapist. So choose your therapist based on your intuition. Yeah, the all modalities can be effective if the person who uses them is well trained. Yeah, so you must get a sense of the groundedness and the non-judgmental qualities of your therapist. Some ways to know that is a trained therapist won't offer magic. A trained therapist won't be excessively focused on solving your problem, because problems often get transformed. So I may want to change somebody else, but I may end up developing compassion for them. So the problem is addressed, but not in the manner that you may have anticipated initially. Yeah, yeah. So trust your gut and look at whether you can have a relationship of trust with the other person.
Right. Got it. Yeah. And then the other thing we were discussing was that a good therapist is unlikely to actually offer advice. Right?
Yeah. Oh, advice is a no-no. A therapist relies heavily on follows you. Yeah. So the training teaches us to stay 2 steps behind the client. They're listening so attentively, and they allow you to take the lead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this was brilliant, and we could carry on, but we decided to keep our videos short. So let's end this one here. And thank you so much for your time and all the insights.
Thank you, Yashodhara.